Our mission is to empower individuals like you to reach their full potential, both personally and professionally. We aim to develop strong leadership skills, facilitate valuable networking opportunities, and promote active engagement within our communities. Today is an extraordinary day as we have the privilege of hosting a true inspiration, Mr. Sahil Pruthi, the founder of Livofy, formerly known as Keto India, and a recognizable figure from Shark Tank India. Today's topic revolves around your guide to building a company. I would like to now take a moment and introduce you to our today's esteemed keynote speaker, Mr. Sahil Pruthi. Sahil is a visionary entrepreneur and the founder of Livofy, has made a significant impact in the field of nutrition and healthcare. With a background as a product manager at a prominent healthcare tech firm, Sahil's journey to entrepreneurship began with a deep-rooted passion for improving people's lives through proper nutrition. His inspiration came from a personal experience witnessing the limitations of the healthcare system when a family member faced a brain tumor diagnosis. This eye-opening encounter revealed the critical gap in the integrative care and the need for personalized nutritional guidance. Thus, Livofy was born with a mission to revolutionize the way Indians approach nutrition and lifestyle. Sahil's remarkable journey led him to the spotlight of Shark Tank India, where he presented his business with confidence and conviction. This platform provided him with a unique opportunity to share his vision and secure an INR 1.6 crore in funding from renowned investors, including MCure, BOAT, BharatPay, and Lenskart founders. His business idea and innovative technology were met with enthusiastic approval from the expert sharks, propelling his venture to new heights. Sahil's story is a witness to power of entrepreneurship, perseverance, and a commitment to addressing critical health issues through innovative solutions. His dedication to improving the lives of countless individuals in India has firmly established him as a dynamic force in the nutrition consulting industry, making him a true standout on the entrepreneurial stage. Now, before I hand over the session to Mr. Sahil, I would like to remind our viewers today about the post-talk Q&A session. Please feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A segment, and we will strive our best to address them during the session. Over to you, Sahil.
Big thank you to Palak for inviting me for the session, first of all, at GIBS. And thank you so much for such a warm introduction about my journey so far. Brings a lot of nostalgia about how far we've come with regards to our journey. So very excited about the talk and sharing my learning so far. And I'm super excited to be a part of this talk. As I learned from Palak that this talk has a mix of people who happen to be either students at GIBS or are working professionals. So the topic that I specifically chose is for people who don't necessarily have to be entrepreneurs but are entrepreneurial by nature. So whether you're a student who wants to know about the world of startups, whether you're a working professional who wants to know about the world of startups or probably wants to start their company, the intent of the next couple of, the next 45, 50 minutes or 1 hour that we have together is for you all to get a good idea of, what is it that you probably need to do or get a macro visibility of what it takes to kind of build a company. And I will share the hard-earned lessons that I have learned in the last 4.5, 5 years of being an entrepreneur, and obviously me having worked in startups as well, right? And I'm super excited to be sharing my learnings. Before I probably start and probably share my screen with regards to specifics of my journey, I would really appreciate that if any of you guys have questions that you would like me to answer, feel free to put them in the Q&A section. As Palak rightly put, we will be having a Q&A session towards the end. But if there are any questions that you would like me to address in advance, you can feel free to keep the chat box very active. I will keep reading them as I present. And if I feel that I will, it will help me contextualize the presentation a lot more. And if I feel that there are certain questions that can be addressed in the middle of the presentation itself. I will be doing that itself, right? So you already have the Q&A section, which you leverage to kind of ask your questions or put them in the chat, whatever feels comfortable. I'm okay either ways. And yeah, like that's a broad idea, and I'm super excited to be sharing my learnings going forward, right? So I'll quickly share my screen, and we'll take things forward from there. Palak, is my screen visible?
Yes, it is visible. Yeah.
All right, great. Yeah, awesome. So I call this topic as your step-by-step guide to building a company, and I will be touching upon various aspects of really building a company. And I'm sure you will have a lot of these questions in your mind with regards to what does it really take to kind of build a company in today's day and age with the kind of experience that you might have, and a lot more questions, right? Now, as Palak rightly introduced, my name is Sahil. I am the founder of Livofy, previously Keto India. We were, as Palak rightly put, we were one of the most loved startups on Shark Tank India, where we were offered 1.6 crores in funding, but we didn't take that offer and eventually raised about 4.5 crores in funding from leading angels. We are also one of the leading startups. We're one of the top 60 entrepreneurs selected as a part of Stanford Seed, and prior to starting my company, I worked in leading startups only, like companies like Innovator and Travel Triangle. So I've been living, breathing startups for the past 7.5, 8 years. So whether it's been as an employee or as an entrepreneur now, I've loved my time working in startups in the past couple of years, right? So I'm also an ex-developer at Samsung Research India, Bangalore, and Kronos Incorporated. So it's been a fun ride to experience the journey from being a technical person to learning development to managing teams as an employee, and now obviously building a company. Now, first of all, I want to probably double down in terms of I've seen this a lot back in my college days at NSIT, whether it's people working as employees in companies. Every party or get together or every chai sutta chilling scene starts with the people telling that, hey, I have an idea, and this idea is going to become the next unicorn or next $1 billion company, right? But very rarely do we execute our idea and understand ki ye idea chalega ki nahi chalega, basically, right? And it's very important for us to have a structure around the madness in terms of whether an idea is good enough for us to execute in the first place or not, right? And that's exactly what I will probably tell you about. That having worked in 2 startups, having built one, and obviously had my fair share of startups that did not work out also, there is a structure that I would like to propose to you guys, that you should know that whether the idea that you have in mind is worth enough pursuing in terms of execution, is worth enough quitting your job or not taking up a placement, or moving, or even experimenting for that matter, right? So, the next couple of slides or next couple of pointers that I will talk about will give you a lot of structure in terms of how to approach whether your idea objectively is good enough or not. So the first thing that you should keep in mind is this checklist before you start a business. Is that okay? Let's take an example and probably go ahead, right? So, say for example, if there is say for example, hypothetically, Pragya wants to start a fashion company, or say Palak wants to start a fashion company, and she says that, hey, you know what? That there is a fashion category for women between 18 to 24, which nobody cares about, and they are tight on budgets, they don't have a lot of money, and I want to build a company that that will revolutionize how people or youngsters between 18 to 24 wear their clothes, right? Now, this might sound like a sexy idea, but is it worth pursuing or not? Is exactly what you need to know, how to stress test your idea, right? Now, first of all, you need to understand what is the user persona. Can you clearly define it, right? So that's the first exercise that you should do. That whatever product or service that you have in mind, right? People say that I will build for, I will build a fashion label, right? But who are you building for, right? So, for example, you might say 18 to 24, but are you building for 18 to 24 who are college, like who are men or women? you have to double down on that, right? So you might say females, right? Are you building for women in tier 1 cities or tier 2 cities? You might say that tier 1 city people already have a lot of options, but my hypothesis is that people in tier 2 cities do not get access to technology and fashion labels coming on an offline model. So I'm building for maybe tier 2 cities, right? Are they Hindi speaking or English speaking people, right? So you might do a certain bit of research to figure out that English speaking people have a higher paying propensity than Hindi speaking people. So I'll probably, reach out to English speaking people, right? What is their income group, right? You might probably arrive that, they're, because they are probably dependent on their families, maybe one of their parents makes at least above 1 lakh rupees per month for them to be able to afford a fashion label that they can buy frequently for my business to be profitable enough, right? Now, if you look at it, the more superficial you are in terms of user persona, the less depth you will have in your product or service, right? That's one of the biggest problems that we have, is that we don't have enough depth in our user persona, right? We are very superficial in terms of who we are exactly targeting, right? We exactly need to know what is the persona, what do they like doing, what do they not like doing, what are their untold pains, what are their unexpected gains, how is their relationship with the family. There are a lot of questions that we need to answer. And from a branding perspective, it is called as building a user persona or building an empathy map to really understand what your user persona is, right? So whatever product or service that you want to provide to your customer, you need to know the user persona. You need to know what are you building, which untold pain is it catering to, and what is the unexpected gain are they likely to have, right? Now, these are three major things that you really need to know, and that will define the branding guideline, the marketing approach, the product approach, what channel you want to go. Do you want to go offline or do you want to go online? All of these things will come from the exact user persona which maps to your product, right? Now, what is the moat of the product that you have? Moat ka matlab, to put it simply, is that what is the unfair advantage that your product or service has that nobody else can copy, right? Now, just continuing on this hypothetical example, if Palak decides that I am building a fashion label and decides to get her clothes made from a certain factory, can I not go to the same factory and get the same products made and make the same revenue as Palak is making 2 years down, right? So she exactly needs to know that how will I prevent my business from being copied in the first place, right? So she might say that I will build a community of women who care about fashion so much that they will talk about fashion day in, day out on my app, right? And my community is going to be the moat, right? So you exactly need to know that what is the moat that is going to set you apart from your competitors, right? What is the product? Is there a product market fit or founder market fit, right? So, as Palak said that why, for example, in my case, I had a certain depth with regards to the subject matter, because obviously I had a personal reason why I ended up reading about healthcare in such depth, right? So my combination of technology and healthcare ends up being a founder market fit, and obviously the product that we built had a certain need with the customers, right? So having a product market fit or founder market fit is very important, right? And if you're trying to build a problem, if you're trying to build a product or service, are you solving for a large enough market or not, right? In technical terms, and you're all B school students or business students in general, is your TAM or total addressable market large enough for it to build or for it to become a large enough business or not, right? So, for example, if you're building in a market, so for example, just continuing on the example for Palak, how many women in tier 2 cities who are English, how many women are there in tier 2 cities who are English spoken and have families that make over 1 lakh rupees, right? If the total transaction value that is possible is only 100 crores, the maximum that she might make eventually as a business is a 100 crore annual revenue business, right? But if, for example, she targets a market that in itself is maybe a $20 billion market, right? So even if she takes a very small percent of that pie, she ends up being a large, entrepreneur, large business owner, right? So, always make sure that you target a large enough market. Even if you're niche right now, make sure that you have it in your mind that you want to target a large enough market, because it gives you scope organically for the business to grow just because of the sheer volume of the market, basically, right? So that is very important for you guys to kind of keep in mind, basically, right? So that is it. Before I move to the next slide, I'll just quickly run through the questions so that I have visibility with regards to what questions are being asked. I have a big startup fantasy hotel business, but I don't have knowledge about how to enter the corporate world, and I want to raise funds approximately 30 crores. Can you suggest me how can I reach it? Parameshwar Parameswar. I'm so sorry about that name. I will talk about raising capital towards the end. I am Devjit from PBA, 2 years. What key strategies do you believe are critical for building a successful company? We're talking about that itself, Devjit. So I'm sure this is going to get answered as we go. Rajiv has asked, can you provide insights into creating a value proposition competitive advantage for a startup in a crowded market? Right? That's a very good question, Rajiv. I'll go deeper into it as we go. And what are the common challenges that entrepreneurs face while building a company? Oh, there are countless challenges, Rima. I will talk about them as we go ahead, right? So all these questions will be covered, as we kind of go ahead, right? So that is it. Thanks for the questions. People feel free to ask your questions in the Q&A section like these people have. I will be answering them as we go ahead, right? Now, one of the questions that we got was that somebody was looking to raise capital. Now, first of all, you need to know what kind of a business are you, right? Like fundamentally, there are two kinds of businesses. There are lifestyle businesses, which means that those are businesses where you get certain profits, they will grow linearly, and you take the profits out of that business, right? So, for example, a Kirana store, the kind of business our parents have run, right? So, a factory, a real estate business, a small boutique. These are all lifestyle businesses, right? Or service agencies, right? Technology service agencies, right? These are all by nature of the business that they are going to be profitable businesses, and you take profit out of them, right? The other kind of businesses, the large business that you see that end up being, $100 million, 700 crore, 1,000 crore businesses, where you have to invest a lot of capital initially for technology product growth, and they will by nature be loss-making businesses for starters, but inherently have good enough unit economics that at scale they will become very healthy, profitable businesses, right? So, for example, companies like Zomato, Swiggy, Oyo Rooms, Zepto, right? Again, a lot of so many businesses like these. They have been loss-making businesses for 8, 10, 15 years, 12 years. But eventually, if you probably see, Zomato has had a recent profitable, quarter or year, right? So eventually, the end goal for these companies is to become profitable, right? So the kind of business that you're building, have very clear visibility that are you building something that's a bootstrap business or or a large business that needs capital to grow fast, right? That's one thing that I honestly struggled with in the initial 2.5 years. I didn't have clarity in terms of what I was building, right? I just thought that I am here to make more money than my salary. So kept drawing profits from the business, but later on realized that, hey, this business is going to be technology intensive. And if I have to bear so much pain to build a business, I might as well build a larger one, right? So that's why my call moved from being a bootstrap entrepreneur to a funded entrepreneur. And the nature of large businesses is that their probability of failing is also very high, right? So about 90%, 95% of the businesses, or even 98% of the businesses that raise capital, they end up shutting down because their nature was that they were to become large enough, right? So a lot of entrepreneurs just shut down because they could not make a large enough business, and that's absolutely okay, right? But that's a call that they had taken well in advance, right? So have exact visibility in terms of what you're exactly. Now I will talk about the major lessons that I had while building Livofy, previously Keto India, and now that you probably have a broad structure about who are you building for, what are you building, how do you have an unfair advantage, I will talk about the various lessons that I learned while building a business, right? Now, we as people look down upon sales as a skill that nobody wants to do, right? And हमारे दिमाग में ना sale का perception अभी तक वही है कि जो साबुन बेचने आ रहा है या फिर credit card बेचने आ रहा है, right? So we all have that perception that sales people are like it's a job that is looked down upon, especially in good tier 1 colleges, especially my experience in NSIT was such that nobody would want to take up a sales role, right? But when you want to take up entrepreneurship, the first thing that you need to do is learn how to sell, right? And sell effectively, right? Now, if you have an idea, you have to go to your user persona, speak to them, understand to them, and actually sell to them and see whether they are actually willing to buy or not, right? Because the business eventually has to get revenues, right? So, as an engineer, I've seen a lot of founders who are engineers, especially, they end up building technology first and look for a solution looking for a problem, right? That should never be a good approach, right? You should speak to people, make sure that there is a genuine need and people are looking to buy. Until the time you have not done that, you should not look to build in the first place, right? So when I quit my job to start Livofy, we didn't even have a website. And I was a product manager who was leading a team of 20 developers, who was working with 20, 25 developers. But I quit my job on an Instagram page with just a Google form. and I was just doing sales for the for the first 1.5 2 months, just to understand what my customer persona is, what is it that they're struggling with, and how can I help them, right? And now we obviously have a full stack product, but when I obviously started the company, it was just a solo person who was working from a co-working space, trying to understand what the customer pain points are. Until the time I had not done my first 100 sales, I didn't even hire anybody, right? Like I was just selling, aggressively selling, and you have to learn how to sell first, right? Now, the second thing is that because a lot of people, when they quit their jobs, there is a inherent itch to start making money as soon as possible, right? You need to make sure that you don't execute. And again, it is an inherent nature in people that they are itching to start executing as soon as possible. कि जैसी idea उसको कुछ बनाने लग गए, right? Execution is the cheapest thing that exists in terms of building products, right? You can code, you can build an app, you can build a website, but if there is not enough depth in your idea, that app website is just redundant spends, right? So the first thing that you need to do is understand how to sell, understand your customer persona, and then understand how are you actually going to make it big by doing the right kind of research, whether it is competitors, your business model, how will you stay ahead in the game. So plan with patience and then execute fast and execute violently, right? That is very important while you're looking to build your business. Again, one important learning that I had was that I constantly tell my team also is that, people have this inherent nature while building a company is that, hey, I built 20 features in this month, right? How cool is that, right? But good entrepreneurs and good product managers don't build a lot, right? The whole goal is to get the maximum outcome from the least amount of features or products that need to be built, right? Which also goes back to the previous point. If you have not planned enough, you are spraying and praying. You have to plan enough, have a lot of depth in your idea. And if you have a lot of depth in your idea, you come from less products and services itself, right? Which is important, which will only happen if you understand your customer persona, your market, your overall competitor space, and why you're different. If you exactly have clarity, you will end up building less and still be able to build a good, impactful business, right? So building less is very important. Okay, so these are things that the things that I talked about were obviously important things, but now I want to talk about knowing your metrics really well, basically, right? Now these are slightly technical. This is a slightly technical slide, but you exactly need to know how to keep your metrics in mind while you're building a business, right? Now going back to the idea which I said for a fashion brand, right? Palak will actually need to know what her metrics are in good detail for her to build a business, right? And that's one mistake that we also do is that we don't know what is it going to take for me to move the revenue lever or for me to become a large enough business, right? Now, इसको हम 3 metrics में divide करते हैं. This is a very detailed subject in itself, but I just want you to be aware of this subject for now and study it in detail. Is that divide your metrics into lag metrics, lead metrics, and project metrics, right? Now, for a fashion brand, for example, she might, Palak might say that I will grow my revenue, right? But to be able to grow my revenue, I might lose money on the first transaction, but my product will be so good that people will buy at least 5 more times, right? So Palak is actually banking on the fact that there will be such high repeat of the product or service that I'm providing that I will end up being profitable, right? Now, her lag metric, for example, is revenue. But revenue can happen through 2 ways, right? It could be either through new acquisitions or through repeat acquisitions. On the new acquisitions could be one lead. So the metrics are lag metrics. Lag metrics can be achieved through multiple lead metrics, which could be, as I said, new acquisitions or repeat acquisitions, right? Now, new acquisitions, she might say that I will run Facebook ads to achieve new acquisitions. And to get repeat customers, I will make sure that the product is so good. I will ask people about their feedback, incorporate that feedback, and make sure that their feedback is so good that they end up keep buying, basically, right? Now, think of it as a tree-like structure that to achieve revenue, I will have to run Facebook ads to get people to buy my product or service first. At least a return on ad spend of 1, which means that if I spend 1 rupee on ad, I will get 1 rupee in return. But I am not making money, but people have learned about my brand. That is one lead metric achieved, right? But to achieve profitability, you might say that to be able to achieve profitability, I will get repeat customers, right? Which will happen through taking repeat feedback, high quality product, great packaging, low time to deliver the product. And that is what is going to create the eventual magic, right? So it's very important for any business to actually know what their lag metrics are. Lag metrics is the eventual metric. Lead metrics are what are the small metrics that will achieve the lag metric. And product or project metrics are what are the product or project metrics that will eventually achieve the lead metric. Right? Again, a very technical slide. I have tried to explain it very simply in a small in a very easy manner. Happy to connect offline to kind of discuss this even better, basically, right? I'll just pause for a second. Bhavna is asking, can you share success stories? There are a lot of success stories for our transformation on our Instagram page. Bhavna, you can go through them. Can you share some common challenges? I think, is there a specific industry or markets that are promising, particularly promising for new startups in today's business landscape? Prakash, that I will leave to yourself. That is a function of what interests you, what you're passionate about. What are the large markets? I would leave that to yourself to research. There are a lot of large markets that I can talk about. There are a number of business ideas, but this is outside the scope of the current discussion. But ton of places to create impact in, basically. So that is it. Now, the next thing that you should really focus on is, one of the things that I learned in Stanford Seed significantly was to learning how to delegate, right? Now, entrepreneurs by nature have an inherent thing that they know how to do things the best in the company, right? They think that they're the best product manager, best marketer, best salespeople, best XYZ. But आपको वो सारा काम करना नहीं है जो आपको लग रहा है, right? So we feel that we are the heroes in the company and we can do everything. But you have to make sure that you do whatever it takes, that you are the most redundant person in your organization, right? You have to try and tend to the place. Now, it sounds very counterintuitive but you have to constantly make sure that you delegate so much and so regularly that you are the most redundant person in your organization, right? Your goal has to be that you focus completely on strategy, on growth, and everything which is operational should slowly be delegated, right? And I understand that on day one of the business, that is not going to happen. You have to wear multiple hats. But as and when your business grows, you have to constantly make sure that you spend a lot of time delegating on a regular basis. Now, in the previous slide, I talked about have a combination of skills. What is the founder market fit, right? And that is very important, is for you to have a combination of skills that are so unique to you that nobody else can copy, right? So, as I said, my combination of skills was that I understood, technology, I understood healthcare, and I had a knack for, being creative. I enjoy theaters, writing. So, I could understand social media and marketing well. So that was a combination of skills that other companies could not produce. So that was a skill that was unique to me that became an unfair advantage for me, our company as well, right? And one of the most important things is that when you're starting your business, work-life balance is usually very hard to maintain. So be okay with lack of balance in your life. I tell people that you will have your personal life, your friendships, your work. It is going to need a significant push in your life, and in your early years of your business, you will need to have a lack of balance. A lot of people will tell you that, hey, work-life balance is important, but as much as it's important, if you are looking to achieve any significant delta in a certain aspect of your life, my hard-earned learning has been that you will have to put in extra hours. If you're competing with a company that is significantly larger than you, you will end up having to put a lot of hours as well, right? So be okay with a lot of imbalance in your life per se, right? Now, again, one of the things is that be okay with being lied, being cheated, being ghosted on. Again, a hard-earned learning that investors will tell you that they will invest in your company and end up never investing. They will suddenly ghost you. You will have people who will come to your business, take ideas, and maybe try and start something of their own. Be okay with being lied. And these are things that as innocent entrepreneurs, when we start, we never kind of think of these aspects, but these are things that are very important for us to know, that all of these things are going to happen. It's going to affect us significantly, but the only way to kind of keep building is embrace yourself for new opportunities, irrespective of how many bad people that you might meet in your journey as well, right? So that is one hard learning that I also had, right? Now, be okay with bearing pain, right? The pain is not going to be physical, but it's going to be emotional and psychological, right? There are going to be a lot of situations where your business is going to be low and nobody is going to support you. They will all tell you that, hey, I told you so, this idea was not going to work anyway, right? There are going to be a lot of situations where employees might suddenly leave. There are going to be situations where there will be a competitor who will suddenly come in the market and offer the same product or service at half the cost, right? And it's going to cause a lot of financial, emotional pain to you. So you have to have a lot of pain resilience while you're building a company. Again, something that's never taught to us in current scheme of things, but you need to know that you have to have very high pain bearing capacity, right? That's very important as well. Now, I will talk about the question that that came next, was that how do I raise capital? I think one of the people was saying that I'm looking to raise capital. Right now, I want to talk about bootstrap business. Ka, if you think about it, जो मैंने बात की was that people who are looking to bootstrap their business, they put their money, business से profit आता है, and they put the profits back in the business, but the business grows linearly, right? But there is one of the entrepreneurs who I see in the chat box. He says that I want to grow my hotel chain fast, and I'm looking to raise 30 crores as a business. What can I do to raise that kind of capital, basically? Right now, again, venture capital is such a black box, like that even I had no idea about how to approach venture capital or angel investment in general. Right now, I want to make it simple for you so that you understand the nitty-gritties of raising capital, and you know these terms when you approach an angel investor or a venture capital in general, right? Now, when you raise capital, हमें capital की जरूरत पड़ती क्यों है, right? हमें capital की जरूरत इसलिए पड़ती है that we need capital to put in the business so that we can grow faster than the pace that we are growing at, right? अगर आप say for example, if your business makes say for example 5 lakh rupees a month in revenue, you might have 60 lakh rupees a year in revenue, but you can only put 60 lakh rupees in the business, right? But if you want to grow your business faster, say for example, you need 2 crore rupees to grow the business faster, right? Now the only way to do that is you will have to raise external capital, right? Now, how can you do it, right? Either you can go raise debt. Debt का मतलब है कि you ask somebody to pay you money and tell them that I will pay you back. So debt is an instrument that you're liable to pay back to the person. Equity is that, hey, I will not pay you back the money, but you take a certain shareholding in my business. If the business becomes profitable or if the business has a higher valuation, you have even higher upside than debt, right? So typically, say for example, if I take 100 rupees in debt from somebody, I'm liable to pay the person back at say pay back the person 112 rupees at the end of the year at 12% interest, which will be 112 rupees, right? But I have to pay 112 rupees. But the person paid only 12 rupees, right? But they had no risk. The second instrument is equity. You might say that I borrowed 100 rupees, I'm not liable to pay you back. But 1 year down, the company's valuation might become 2x. So instead of 100 rupees, you can take back 200. So though there is higher upside, but there is also a risk of losing the money completely, right? So taking a shareholding in the company comes with that risk that you are taking certain equity. Convertible note, it is slightly technical. I don't want to go into it right now, but this is another instrument which is a debt instrument that converts to equity, or SAFE bolte hain isko, simple agreement for future equity. You can read about it. I don't want to go into it. It's slightly more technical, and I want to keep this lecture slightly simpler for the scope. But also be aware that convertible note is also an instrument to raise capital, right? So if the valuation is not sure, you can use convertible note as an instrument. Oh, Samir says, I've seen your chapter. Oh, that's very kind of you to Samir. Thank you. Now, I want to talk about when you raise investment through equity as a model, right? So angel investors or venture capital, they're typically not interested in investing your money, hoping that you will pay them back with 12% interest. They are investing in your company, hoping the fact that you will give them disproportionately higher returns, which means 10x, 20x, 15x returns. Like अगर वो 100 रुपए डाले, so they're expecting 1,000 return, 1,500 return, 2,000 return, basically, right? Now, how can investor make money? वो तीन तरीकों से they can make the money. Either the company that has taken money from you through equity, they raise the next round at a higher valuation, and the next investor buys back the shares at the higher valuation, right? Now, say for example, I raised 100 rupees from say investor A at a valuation of my company for 1,000 rupees, right? या फॉर एग्जाम्पल एक रियलिस्टिक टर्म लेते हैं कि शार्क टैंक में सपोज Aman Gupta and Namrata Thapar invested 1 crore rupees in exchange for 10% equity in the business, which means that they decided to value the company at 10 crore. Now, the founder is not liable to pay the investor back 1 crore rupees. कि अगर investor founder company नहीं चली, so he has no liability to pay Aman or Namrata back, right? But Aman and Namrata are bullish on the fact that the company will grow so fast or so much that in the next 3, 4, 5, 10 years, the company will become, say, for example, 100 crores, right? In the next 5 years, the company grows and the company's valuation becomes 100 crores, right? Now, at 100 crores valuation, Aman and Namita का पैसा money became 10x. जो उन्होंने 10 करोड़ की वैल्यूशन में डाला था, जो नेक्स्ट इन्वेस्टर 100 करोड़ पे आया, उसने बोला कि I will buy back your shares at 100 crore valuation. So you leave the 10% equity, I will buy it at 100 crore rupees, right? So the next round, the investor has bought back the equity of the previous round. So that is one way how investors make money, right? So they are banking on next round of funding, which is why you must be seeing that founders are constantly raising valuation of the company. That is why they are raising the values of the company, right? The second is when the company gets bought back, right? Now, taking the same example, if Aman and Namita invested in a company for at a 10 crore valuation, say for example, the company was say a fashion label that Palak had started. She raised one crore in capital because Namita said that she will provide her expertise. Aman said that I will help you with brand, and they help grow the company in revenues. And eventually, say 4 years later, there is a last thing Nika says that you are becoming competitor to me, or you already have so many customers. I'd rather buy your company, right? And I will buy your company at 50 crores, right? So the next company has bought a previous company at a higher valuation. So when the company gets acquired, that is where also the investor makes money, right? The third place is when the company goes public, which is a company like Zomato, where the companies which are raising capital through private markets, to private market bolte, when it goes public at a higher valuation, then anybody can buy stocks of that company. That is where an investor also makes money. So these are the three models in which how an investor makes money, basically. Now, how does a founder make money, right? ये भी आपको जानने की जरूरत है, right? Like so many people say that अब लोगों को लगता है कि अगर if a founder raises X amount of money वो उनका पैसा हो गया, right? No, that does not happen. We are putting all the money or a major chunk of the money in the business itself. So if we raise 4, 5, 10 crores, 10 crores is not ours. We are obviously putting the money in the business. But the founder's major wealth creation opportunity lies in the equity of the company, right? Which is very similar to how investor will make the money. If the investor in the next round, so say for example, if the investor in the next round buys back the shares, can buy back the share of the founders also, right? Like they bought back the shares of previous investor, they can choose to buy back the shares of the previous founder also, right? So then the founder makes money. If the company gets bought or there's a merger or acquisition, that's when the founder also makes money. Or when the company goes public, right? That is where the founder can also choose to sell their shares, right? This is specifically for people who are looking to raise capital. That's how you as founders will make money. Now, like I will answer the question that was being asked here. How can I raise money, right? But first of all, we need to understand why will an investor invest in your business in the first place, right? They look for all of these things when they actually invest in your money, right? They invest money in your business, right? They look for a large market size. उनको लगता है कि यार, if they are paying somebody that they know this money is not going to come back, they're likely to lose. Then they're like, if I'm putting 10 bets, one bet better become 100x, right? So they want to make sure the market is large enough. The second is that the founder of the company has a unique means to solve the problem. The third is that there is a scalability that the founder of the company provides, preferably through technology, because technology scales easily. And the fourth is that there is an unfair advantage that the business has that nobody else can replicate easily, right? So these are things that makes a business investable, right? So you need to exactly put these pointers while you're going out to reach to an investor. And most importantly, you have to be convinced as founders yourself that all these pointers are actually there, legitimately there for your business to be investable. If you are generally not honest enough to yourself, you are only going to burn your hands yourself as a business owner, and you're going to burn your investors' money also, right? So generally make sure that you have a large enough market size. Generally make sure that you have a unique means to solve the problem. There is a scalability to the problem, and you already have a moat in the business, right? So these are things that you really need to take note of. Now, these are things that you need to keep in mind while you're building a pitch deck for your investors. You need to make sure that your pitch deck is crisp and concise. You have to have very crisp way to tell the problem that you're solving. You should talk about the current team, the current advisors that you have, the current investors that you have that you already have by chance. You should talk about the market size. Is it large enough or not? How are you solving the problem that is unique, and why will it become a large business? And why will you be the right people that will make this business large enough, right? You also need to talk about what is the current competitive landscape and details of what sets you apart. What are your current numbers, metrics, and growth? The investors need to feel comfortable that the founder understands overall business health, right? So what are your current numbers? That is very important. And what do you want to do with the capital, right? So answering that question, if somebody wants to raise a certain amount of capital, where do you want to spend that capital? What departments? And you also want to make sure that you give them growth projections in detail, right? So that is very important as well, right? Now, and a very important secret that not a lot of people tell you about is that you should make sure that while you're pitching to an investor, be an excellent storyteller, right? All these things अगर आप include भी कर लोगे, but अगर आपकी presentation में दम नहीं है ना, in terms of it grasping a person's attention, in terms of what made you start this business in the first place, why are you so passionate about the business in the first place, right? What is the story behind your business, right? They will not remember you, right? They get a ton of founders who will look to investment to raise capital. You have to make sure that you're an excellent storyteller that make sure that the investor never forgets you, right? So that even if they don't invest in you, you have to make sure you tell very good stories, right? So be an excellent storyteller, and it's a skill that you have to practice over time, right? Whoever is a CEO in their business, they have to be an excellent storyteller and obviously good at sales, right? Now, these are the various metrics that an investor typically looks at. They might look at your daily active user, monthly active user, or weekly active user, which is called as DAU, WAU, MAU. It is different for different business, but these are macro metrics that a business that an investor looks at. They will look at your revenue. They will look at your gross margins. They will look at profits or burn. How much money are you burning? What is your month on month or quarter on quarter or year on year growth? And what is the impact that is specific to the business that you're building, right? So, for example, in the fashion label, she's building impact in the sense that customers who wear it, they tell 5 people that, I am wearing XYZ brand, right? In our case, it could be diabetes reversal, PCOS reversal, or client testimonials as one of the people who's asking, right? So that is there. Now, one of the questions that also is very important is that founders never have clear visibility कि यार हमें कितना पैसा raise करना चाहिए, right? So you don't raise any ambiguous amount that you want to raise. You can't just go to an investor and say I want to raise 20 crore, 30 crore, 100 crore, 500 crore, right? You can say any arbitrary number, right? You raise the money that you're looking to lose in the business, and you can't afford to put it yourself is what you raise, right? Now, going back to the example where, say, for example, if somebody says that they want to raise, say, 4.8 crores, right? If somebody wants to raise 4.8 crores, they are looking to lose 4.8 crores in the business, which is going to get invested in product, technology, strategy. So you are looking to raise money for burn. The burn should last for 18 to 24 months, right? So say, for example, if somebody is looking to raise 2.4 crores, they are looking to lose 10 lakh rupees every month for the next 24 months so that they have enough money in the bank to last 24 months, right? So you should typically raise 18 to 24 months. You will raise for burn. And the idea is that the investor is expecting you to raise the next round at a valuation higher than the current valuation so that their money multiplies, right? So these are things that you need to keep in mind. So say, for example, if in the example of the founder who was saying that they're looking to raise 30 crores, it should not be an arbitrary number कि मैं आज 30 crore मांगने वाला हूँ, right? It should be like 30 crores divided by 24 months, which means roughly 1.3 crore rupees of money I am looking to burn every month, to be able to scale. Is that a good number? Is that a bad number? I don't know. But they should be very sure. Are they actually making some money in the business that can lower the burn? If that can be the case, then he might not raise 30 crore, he might raise only 20 crores. Asking for too much might dilute your company too much also, right? So you have to make sure that you don't ask too much in every round, right? अगर आपकी वैल्यूएशन कम है और इतना ज्यादा आप आस्क कर रहे हैं तो आपकी वैल्यूएशन मतलब आपकी कंपनी की शेयर होल्डिंग बहुत लूज हो जाएगी, right? So you have to be confident of how much money you're looking to raise at the right valuation, right? So these are things that you really need to know while you're looking to raise capital, basically. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation. And I think I am on time, so I will also be answering all the questions towards the end. But happy to open the floor to the questions. People can feel free to ask their questions either on chat or people can speak up and ask their questions as well. So yeah.
So let's hear it from our viewers, Sahil. We have Dr. Rajiv who's asking, how did you decide on the pricing strategy for your products and services and how did you market it? So if you can share some insights on how they can do it.
Sure. So Dr. Rajiv, it's a very subjective question. I have studied strategy in good details and pricing continues to be one of the hardest topics to really focus on. So I will tell you the structure that I have used historically while I've decided pricing. First is that I actively used to sell to the customer, right? When I was selling to the customer, I exactly knew the user persona that is willing to buy for the product or service that I have to offer. जैसे ही मुझे यूजर पर्सोना समझ आ गया, आफ्टर ट्रायल एंड एरर आई एक्सपेरिमेंटेड विद प्राइसिंग स्लाइटली लेसर, प्राइसिंग स्लाइटली हायर, and experimented which pricing is actually fitting the bill, right? And the moment I kind of that, I scaled that up, right? That's a very subjective way to do pricing strategy, right? Now, if you want to do pricing strategy in a more technical manner, it's called as A/B test, split testing. बोलते हैं that hypothetically you decide a customer persona. Again, taking the final example, 18 to 24-year-old women, Palak hypothesizes that they don't have a lot of money, so she will make a landing page where 100 people will come for the same product for 50 rupees, and she will get 100 people at the same time to a different landing page and charge 2x the amount, right, for the same product or service, right? And her hunch is that अगर मैं 100 चार्ज करती हूँ, people will buy more. But she, for example, 10 buy at 100 rupees, she makes 1,000 rupees, right? But for the 100 visitors where charge 200 rupees, only 6 people bought. But she made 12 rupees, right? Now it is a split test that even though she charged higher, but less number of people bought, but she eventually made more profits, right? So that is a pure A/B test. A/B test again is a very technical topic. You can read about it, but you can either split test or do pure sales to be able to check whether what's the right pricing or not, right? But it's a lot of experimentation. Ideally, it should be identifying your user persona, doing sales, and do subjective experiments or objective experiments. A/B testing is the right framework to kind of experiment. So yeah.
And in the question section, Sahil, as I can see here, there are people who would like to know what are the initial challenges that any entrepreneur faces when they start a company. So if we can have that as the next question.
Yeah, sure. Happy to answer that, Palak. I think one of the major challenges that we all face as entrepreneurs is that when you start your business alone, you have to take up 10, 15 roles, and that is just too difficult to kind of take up, right? Like you are doing HR, you're doing legal, you're setting up the company, you're hiring the people, you're convincing the first hire to join you when you're just alone in the company. Nobody wants to trust you. You are trying to convince the customer that you are a legitimate company when you are just one person, right? So legitimizing the brand to the customer, to the employee, to a prospective employee. You don't have a lot of capital as well in the first place. So making sure that the employees are sufficiently paid. These are big challenges that we all face. And obviously wearing multiple hats, right? And these challenges never stop. There are different challenges at different stages, but I think the initial stages are incredibly hard to kind of start a company, right? So as I said, it's not an easy thing to start a company, but the initial, obviously, a few couple of months are very satisfying as well if you do them right. So yeah.
Next, we have Devjit Mondal, who's asking, what are the key strategies that you believe are critical for building a successful company? So is there any mix that we can put it out there?
Yeah, I think as I said, there are different things which could be key strategies. One, as I said, that understand your user out and out. Second is learn how to sell properly to that user. Third is know your product. What does the moat that your product or service has? And fourth is you should know how to scale it up also. Whether you're scaling through marketing, through distribution, through technology, eventually know how is it going to scale, right? So if you have these 3 or 4 pillars in place, I'm sure you'll build something meaningful and build something large at scale. So that is there, right? And one of the major things that I would also say, like, be okay with failing also. Like, I think it's not talked about a lot, or even if it is, like, people, you need to know that every business is just an experiment. Don't assume your failure to, your company failing to your failure. It's just an experiment that you hypothesized, and be okay with trying a lot of times. That's important. So,
and we have another question from Lakshmi. She asks, how do you recommend balancing innovation and risk management in the early stages of company's development?
yeah. ये एक बहुत डिटेल्ड क्वेश्चन है वैसे, but I will answer it in a simpler manner. It was Lakshmi. Lakshmi asked this question, that how do you balance innovation and risk management, right? So Lakshmi, any product or business idea or feature that you want to introduce in your company, try and bucket that into 3 buckets, right? Whether it is necessary, hygiene, or experiment. Necessary is that you're 100% sure that building this product or service will eventually improve a metric that matters to you, right? So bucket that in necessary. Hygiene is things that you need to do, which could be, for example, legal things, registering your company, operational stuff, finance, accounting, so on and so forth. Experiments are things that you don't know whether they will work or not work, right? In the earliest stage of the business, the distribution should be 80-10-10, which is 80% of the task should be necessary, 10% should be hygiene, and 10% should be experiments. As you grow as a company, your distribution should slowly come down to 60% necessary, 20% hygiene, and 20% experiment, right? So you have to keep increasing experiments so that there can be disruption in the business, right? And necessary should decrease, right? Because you will eventually have more capital, you will have more numbers to run experiments. But that you balance innovation and risk, right? You innovate in the experiment bucket, and you do things that can actually move the money lever as well, right? So this is a good prioritization framework that I've been using for years that works really well for me. So yeah.
And we have another question, Sahil. How do you go about making a foundational team? It is not always possible for us to have a competence in all areas. So, how do we approach this situation?
Absolutely. I think that's the question. Who's asked this question?
This is asked by Omar Rahman.
Omar. So, Omar, I think first of all, I would tell that if you are like, you should hire people, or you yourself should be a generalist in the initial stages of the company, which means that अगर आपका एक माइंडसेट है कि यार मैं एक चीज अच्छी करता हूँ, मैं यही करने वाला हूँ, तो वो तो बिल्कुल नहीं होने वाला, राइट? आपको, अगर आप टेक्नोलॉजी के पर्सन, आपको सेल्स भी करनी पड़ेगी, आपको प्रोडक्ट मैनेजमेंट करनी पड़ेगी, आपको मार्केटिंग भी करनी पड़ेगी, आपको झाड़ू पोछा भी करना पड़ेगा, आपको वाईफाई भी लगवाना पड़ेगा, सब कुछ करना पड़ेगा बेसिकली, आपको ऑफिस रेंट पे भी लेना पड़ेगा. सो हैव अ वेरी जनरलिस्ट माइंडसेट फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, राइट? But it does not mean that you don't understand your strengths, right? You should be okay with doing anything that the business demands, but you need to know what are things that you are very good at and what are things that you enjoy doing, so that when the opportunity is right, you are able to hire for your weaknesses, right? So say for example, you might say that as a person, I am very good with marketing, I am very good with sales, but right now I'm doing technology because I don't have an option. But you keep looking for people who are generalists but are specialists in certain things that are your weaknesses, right? So hire generalists and hire people who are your weaknesses in terms of speciality, right? So initial founding team people should be those. And एक inherent trait होना चाहिए people who have high work ethic or high ethic in general, right? In initial stage of business, you will not be able to pay your people too much, right? You should hire people who are slightly more gutsy in the sense that अगर आज वो आ रहे हैं कि उनको लग रहा है आइडिया सेक्सी है, बट अगर 3 महीने बाद उनको लगता है कि यार बिजनेस नहीं चल रहा तो भाग जाएंगे, तो डोंट हायर दोस पीपल, राइट? वेयर पीपल, you should have certain ref check, you should have certain level of trust in the person. I understand that it's not always possible, you will have to take leap of faith also, but you should look for proxies where the person has been okay taking risk in their lives basically, right? Because this is a high risk high reward game, so you should know people who will stay with you even when the business goes up or down basically, right? And who you can even emotionally vent out to also, right? If things are burning, you should not be afraid कि मैं foundational team से नहीं बात कर पा रहा. That is very very important, right? Look for that unknown thing as well when you hire your leadership team basically, right? So that is very important.
And we have last couple of questions, Sahil. One is asked by Neetu, that is, can you discuss an approach to sales and customer acquisition?
Yeah, Neetu, I think this is a very subjective question in terms of sales and customer acquisition. Depends on what kind of business you are, right? So for example, if you're a B2C business, sales and customer acquisition can be so many ways, right? If you're a B2C direct to customer business, you can either go digital, where you can sell through your own website, or you can sell through Amazon, Flipkart, or if you want to be offline, then you can actually use distribution channels, like say for example, big bazaar, so on and so forth. Right now, distribution is huge, right? If you are a business which is high ticket, then you need a salesperson to sell, then that's a very different approach, right? If you are B2B, you need to know what is the distribution channel that you will use. Do you need a strategic investor? Do you need a B2B person who can get you qualified leads? The approaches are very different, right? So the sales and marketing channels need to be identified. Again, it all boils down to, do you know your user persona? I'll give an example. In the fashion label, she knows that these people spend a lot of time on Instagram, right? Palak knows that these people spend a lot of time on Instagram. So her distribution has to be Instagram and paid ads on Instagram and Facebook, right? So that's her distribution channel. But if I am building for, say, for example, women who are above 55 years of age, and I'm building clothing for 55 years of age, they don't spend a lot of time on Instagram. They probably spend time on Facebook, right? So I will actually build for Facebook more, basically, right? So that's the initial few slides are actually emphasizing on exactly that. That if you understand your customer, you know the channel, and you will know the channel in terms of where to market and where to sell, and that is very important. So yeah.
And the last question for the session we have from Ramesh. He asks, what is the minimum capital required to start a company or a startup?
I think that is again a very subjective question, Prathamesh. Depends on what kind of business are you in, right? If you are a service business, for example, if you want to say, if you are a consultant who wants to consult people for strategy, right? You don't need any capital. You just need to start your company. You need to start looking for clients. The moment you get your first 2-3 clients, they start paying you, for example, 30K, 50K, or 1 lakh rupees. You have 50,000 rupees in your business, 1 lakh rupees in your business. You start investing. You start hiring one person who can take up some of your role, and you keep hiring, right? If you are building, say for example, a manufacturing ka kaam, you need the minimum capital that you need is to build a website, which might, say for example, cost you 50,000, 1 lakh rupees. You need certain inventory of products, or you might not even need those. If you are building a t-shirt business, you can actually print on demand, right? So you don't need any capital, right? So if you're building a company, even when I started a business, I did not use any capital. जो भी profit थे मैं वही use करता था basically business में वापस, right? So I started with, I did not put any money in the business. I just built the revenue. We were post revenue from the day when I quit my job, and we were just putting the money back in the business, right? But if you are building, say for example, a company that builds rockets that have to go to the moon, for example, then you have to have capital. You can't do it with zero capital, right? You need to understand what is the nature of business. If it is a capital intensive business right from day zero, then you have to raise capital straight up. If there is a business that can go bootstrap without any capital, then you can choose to not raise any capital and put your money back in the business. If it's a pure service business, you probably don't need any capital at all, right? So it's a very subjective answer to the nature of business, the nature of the kind of business vertical that you are in, and the kind of customer that you're catering to as well. So yeah.
And with that, we don't have any more questions, Sahil. On the behalf of GIBS Business School, family, and our audience today, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to you. Your inspiring journey from vision to reality has undoubtedly left an indelible mark on all of us. I would like to express my gratitude to the participants for their active engagement, which has contributed to the resounding success of this event. Your presence and enthusiasm has made this event truly unforgettable. For regular updates and valuable insights, I encourage you to follow Mr. Sahil as well as GIBS IRE Talks across various social media platforms. You can revisit our previous IRE Talks on our YouTube channel. E-certificates for today's event will be distributed by 28th of October. To stay connected with us, GIBS and IRE Talks, please follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Telegram, Instagram, Facebook, and we look forward to bring another exciting session in November. Thank you for your valuable time. And as we conclude today, I encourage you all to prioritize your health and well-being. Thank you once again, Sahil.
Thank you so much, Palak, for having me. And it was great speaking to you all at GIBS. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.